the Paranormal Gateway Paratalk. I'm host Scott Wise, and today I'm honored to have Dr. Yafi Yair, a guest, a clinical psychologist, multidimensional channel, and consciousness explorer who bridges science, spirit, and soul. With a doctorate in clinical psychology earned in Miami, Dr. Yafi blends hypnosis, energy work, channeling to guide others towards healing and higher awareness. Deeply inspired by Doris Kenyon, Dr. Brian Weiss, and Dr. Michael Newton, she channels messages from master guides and divine feminine Hathor. She's also the author of Conversations with Hathor and Conversations with the Earth, exploring humanity's spiritual evolution. Join us as Dr. Alfie shares her journey through consciousness, channeling, and the art of joyful awakened living. Without further ado, let's welcome Dr. Alfie to the show. Good evening.
Good evening. Hi, Scott.
Hi. So, we were just talking earlier about us both starting to get over a cold. Hopefully, we'll get through tonight, right?
Yes. No, I'm feeling well, but a lot of people around are sick. I think it's the season.
Yeah,
So,
we just got 4 inches of snow the other day. We're still getting over that. So, oh well. Um, First question: how did you go from clinical psychology to spiritual work?
yes. So, my whole life, pretty much, I've been going back and forth between the left and right brain, kind of navigating both world, although mostly setting aside the more intuitive, spiritual, unusual interests and focusing more on practical matters such as clinical psychology, which is what I studied as my profession. However, towards the end of my training as a clinical psychologist, I discovered hypnosis, which was a real a burst of interest, of awakening, of bringing spirituality into the clinical world. And that was my first gateway of, again, bringing my spiritual interest into the clinical world. And at the same time, so I was doing hypnosis, first clinical hypnosis for chronic pain and for trauma and different therapeutic matters. And then I discovered past life regression, like you mentioned, with Brian Weiss, and then Michael Newton and Dolores Cannon. So my journey of hypnosis deepened and deepened and became more and more spiritual. And at the same time, in my personal life, I started meditating every day. I started going to the Monroe Institute, and I had other changes, big changes in my personal life. So, really, everything within me and around me was guiding me to take my whole journey in a more spiritual direction. So at first it was just hypnosis. Then I started offering psychic readings when I became comfortable enough with that. It took several years of practicing. Um, and eventually I became a channel. And it's really not replacing the other work that I do. So I still do hypnosis, I still offer counseling. I have different niches to my work. So I still kind of marry the clinical work and world and the spiritual world. But generally speaking, my work and my world, my personal world, has definitely turned in a more and more spiritual direction, uh, making, again, and the personal journey and the professional journeys have been mirroring each other. So the more my work became spiritual, the more in my personal journey, all the lessons became even more deeper and more immersive. So it kind of became a cycle that fed fed itself. until where I am today for the past several years now, really focusing on channeling and working with the guides.
Right. So, when you, what did it feel like when you first realized you could channel? I mean, I mean, I wouldn't know, 'cause I don't know how to do that, but how did it feel the first time that you,
So the first time I channeled, so as I said, I was developing in the last 13 years, I've been
oh,
developing
wow.
my
Yeah.
intuition and psychic abilities and going to the Monroe Institute, which really helped me with further discerning different states of altered consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been doing this for 13 years. So it's a long time to directly
Yeah, right.
harness and work on that. Now, so it's been gradual. So at first, it was generally connecting to my intuition. Then it was being able to bring in specific details. So now we're talking about psychic readings, which first was to myself and my family, then friends, eventually professional, and then the channeling. So it's been very, very, very gradual. And it's been so gradual. And my physiological system is so compatible with the act of channeling that for me, it feels very, very natural. So a few years ago, as a part of my psychic journey, I channeled. I decided I saw channeling was getting more and more popular. And I remember going to a channeling group for somebody else. I don't know. I found it online and I went to see this channeler. And my thought was like, oh, I can do this. I can definitely do this. So I said, okay, let me try. I was already doing different groups with some spiritual tint to it, like past life regression groups. So I scheduled in my office a channeling group, and I channeled, and it felt very, very natural. They identify themselves as the Council of Light, and the people that participated in the group were very happy with the information that came through. However, Dr. Yafi was not too happy because so I went home from that group and I felt it didn't feel right to me because I felt like, how do I know for sure that I was channeling? How do I know for sure that it's not my imagination mixed in? Um, and it just felt like it was too unverifiable. It was too woo woo for me, right? I couldn't really take the plunge. So I decided that channeling was not for me. And fast forward several years later, I there's a specific channeler that kept on coming up in my life several years later. Now we're
Mm-hmm.
talking about 2020, five and a half years ago. At the beginning, maybe I think at the beginning of 2020, I'm not sure, but about 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And her name kept on coming up, and specifically coming up as a teacher and as a channeling teacher. And I've been having that intuitive inclination that I was going to find a teacher. That in order to take my abilities, I wasn't thinking channeling, but just in general, that in order to take my abilities, my experience, my practice to the next level, that it's time for me to find a teacher. And at the same time, I felt weird about teacher. What does it mean finding a teacher? I really believe that spirit and our higher self is the best teacher. So I wasn't sure how to put everything together, but I had those ideas that have been put in my mind and I've been aware of them for months. And then during the COVID shutdowns during 2020, the name Lisa Royal Holt kept on coming up in different directions. And as I mentioned, I discovered she was a channeler, she was a channeling teacher, and her main ideology was so compatible with my own. She had some background in psychology. She was very, very grounded as a person. And she believed that her channeling training was all about you becoming a clearer person so you can channel. So it was all inner work. So it was very compatible with my ideas. And I joined the training. And it was also long-term training. So it wasn't just show up for a weekend and voila, you're a channel.
Mm-hmm.
So I really like that. And I really dove in. And because it was within the space of practice and of play, I felt really comfortable exploring that space of channeling.
Mm-hmm.
And again, keeping a playful approach, not taking it too seriously, not making it too severe, not adding the idea of professional responsibility, but just play, exploration. And over time, I did get more and more validation. And over time, I saw that how natural it feels to me is not common. So that was very unusual for me. I thought that it was like that for everyone. But during that training, I learned that it's not like this for everyone. That
Mm-hmm.
for me is just a very natural process. But again, it's been years and years in the making. In addition to the fact that I was born with some natural tendency.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so how it felt for me to channel for the first time, it felt very natural, and I will say that I go into it quite deeply in terms of actually in both my books. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
so both books have different things to offer in terms of early experiences of channeling and also for others what it feels like to channel. So my first book, Conversations with the Earth, I published this a couple of years ago, and that captures the first time I ever channeled. So I really described there how it felt, and even then, I I kind of wasn't sure what was real and what wasn't. It was really the beginning, and even the idea of what can be channeled. So, for example, in that first book, the first chapter opens with fire consciousness. If
Mm-hmm.
you asked me before that happened, if fire can communicate, I would say you're crazy.
Right.
No way fire can communicate. But this has been so mind expanding because I've also learned not only the specific wisdom, and there is specific perspectives and specific points of wisdom to different consciousnesses, but also what entails an intelligence, an entity, a consciousness. And it's been really interesting to understand how much everything around us is alive, especially when you include higher dimensions and not only this realm and this density level. So for me, channeling felt very natural. I just say my invocation, I go inward. I feel almost like a flow of energy that I kind of just jump on. It's almost like surfing.
Mm-hmm.
But the main work of it is really to hold that space. So it takes a lot of focus. You can, um, the equivalent would be a sort of meditation because I do put myself in that inner focus state of meditation. So it takes a lot of focus to hold that space and to hold that clarity and not, for example, to allow my emotions or my thoughts or ideas to get in the way. So I'm aware when I'm channeling, but I'm in the background. So it's very similar to me taking the back seat and allowing them to take the front seat and to use my words, my vocabulary, my thoughts, my experience as a person, my knowledge as a psychologist, for example. So, all my experience, all that I know, they take that to help them formulate the words and to put words on really, really big ideas. So they're much more zoomed out. They're more wide. What's the word? Broad,
Well,
right?
yeah.
Their consciousness. And they have to narrow it and narrow it and narrow it to fit in a human vehicle and then also to express it in a way that would make sense for humans, for people.
Right. So, how did you channel? Are you exhausted afterwards, or
So, oh yeah, so I started talking about the books and the difference. So the first book, Conversations with the Earth, captures the first time I ever channeled. But after that, it's kind of a wild ride as a new channeler, trying different essences, different intelligences. Now, in my book, Conversations with Hathor, I specifically document all my experiences with Hathor and their messages. And there I really get into how that essence felt. And with Hathor, from the very beginning, from the first time she came through to me, and I sometimes say they, sometimes she, I use it intermittently. So when she first came to me, I really felt that loving, nurturing, feel, and it's definitely not because of what I expected, because I didn't know the name Hathor. I didn't know. So we know the name Hathor from ancient Egypt. She was known as a goddess in the ancient Egyptian time, but I didn't know that. I never heard the name Hathor before she first came through to me. So I didn't know what to expect. And when I heard the name Hathor, when I read the name Hathor, I expected maybe something more masculine, maybe a warrior, but definitely not what I felt. And as soon as I merged myself with that intelligence, with that consciousness, I felt this openness and this, it's like softness, but it's really grounded, and it's really, really loving and really nurturing, and at the same time, really open. And I really felt that in my body, in my energy. So that's how it felt channeling Hathor for the first time. And that's something, as I mentioned, I go into more in my second book, my most recent book, where I talk about all my experiences with Hathor until their announcement that they're here in the physical.
So, what are some of the messages Hathor shared with you?
Yeah, so they talk about themselves as the divine feminine, and also themselves as a Syrian collective. So that's a collective from the Sirius star system. And they come into contact with humanity whenever there are pivotal times of change and any significant energetic shifts. And that is why they were active during the ancient Egyptian times. And that is why they're active and in contact with us today. And during the ancient Egyptian times, all the documents and the carvings talk about the gods as physical beings, physical people that actually interacted with them and walked the earth. And we asked Hathor, when I'm saying we, I'm talking about my group. So when I channel my group that we meet every Sunday, they're the ones asking questions. So we asked Hathor, is it true? Were you actually physical beings, or were you gods during the ancient Egyptian times? And Hathor answered, yes, it was true. We actually manifested as physical beings during the ancient Egyptian time, and we didn't incarnate. So we didn't have to be born into bodies of babies and grow up. We could just densify our light bodies enough for them to be visible and physical in your realm, in your density level. And that's what they did back then. And the first few years of me channeling Hathor, it was just consciousness, which is what channeling is. Channeling is a merging of consciousness. So that was the first few years. And then a couple of years ago, they announced that they have arrived on the earth in the physical once again. And they are here once again. So that's really, really exciting. And they were no longer communicating with us just in consciousness. It's still in consciousness. So when I channel, it's still telepathic. It's not, I'm not seeing them face to face. So it's still telepathic. But now that they're here in the physical, they are working towards physical contact. And the working towards happens both energetically and physically and on many layers.
Can you explain what light language is?
Yes, absolutely. So, one of Hathor's specialties in general is sound and sound as frequency.
Mhm.
And one of the things that they do is use the human voice to produce sound frequency that interacts with people's energy field and energy centers, energetic centers.
Mm.
So when they call it field tuning, however, most people nowadays call it light language. That's what it's known as. So
Okay.
light language can mean many, many different things for different individuals. And it's also different depending on the practitioner of light language. So some people may know light language as the term speaking in tongues, which
Okay.
yeah, so that's one example of light
Mhm.
language. That's not all light language is. But
Right.
the idea is that it's language, but it's not English or another language that we understand.
Right.
It's language that is frequency based, but it's expressed with the human voice. And again, be aware that if you ask other people, you're going to get different definitions, but they have, as I mentioned, called it field tuning. And I'm going to speak about it from my experience. So what I see, what I feel when I channel light language. And I will also mention that light language took the longest to grow on me because I considered it the most woo-woo of my practice. And
Yeah.
it took me a long time to get comfortable with it.
Hmm.
Fortunately for me, my light language is actually is considered pretty, right? Because there are people that are making all those strange sounds, and it's okay. It's still a part of light language because it's about the frequency, not about how it sounds. But lucky for me, Hathor produces beautiful light language, and she uses more of temple chants and different sounds and tunings. That's why they call it field tuning. They produce tones, the tunes our field, and harmonizes our field. Now, from my experience, when it's more spoken words, and you can hear it, I'm going to do it soon. I'll do a demonstration for you so you can hear it and
Hmm.
hopefully feel it too. So, when the spoken words are, that's usually Isis.
Mm. Yeah.
She produces the words, and I see it, used to see it more than now, but I see it with my eyes closed in my mind's eye. I see it as ribbons of white energy
Mm.
coming out through the sound and interacting with people's specifically central nervous system. So the brain, the spine, also the heart, a lot the heart, and also grounding, although the grounding is a lot of it is Hathor. So Isis does the different words. It sounds like language. It sounds like words. And the tones and sounds is more Hathor. And
Hmm.
that interacts more with your general field and also brings in cosmic energy and also grounds it into the earth. But they work together. So it's not as separate as language, our language makes it sound. That it overlaps and they work together. But I actually, from the inside, as I channel the energy, there are actually subtle differences between Hathor and Isis and also the different sounds that they make. And like I said, there's a visual aspect for me too. On the inside, I see the energy and different things that it does.
Are there other entities that come through you?
Oh, yes, I channel many, 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 many entities. When I was new, it was more variable. When I was a new channeler, so we're talking about 5 years ago, it was more variable. And that's really documented very, very well in the book Conversations with the Earth. So I'll give you an example. I'll just read in the first in the index, you have at the head of each chapter what consciousness I channel for the most part. So the first chapter, fire consciousness, and then you have the wind consciousness and different earth elements and the water. And then I have this long chapter about trees and trees spirits being channeled. Again, for me back then, it was completely mind blowing, right? I didn't think anything like that was possible. So the consciousness of trees. And then I started talking about contact and different galactics and how our human consciousness is expanding. And I channeled the moon and I channeled Andromeda, the consciousness of the whole galaxy of Andromeda. Again, a few years before that, if you told me that, I would tell you were crazy. Then I channeled different councils for, again, different galactic origins and the Zetas and the hybridization programs. I even channeled a hybrid child, Alonzo.
Oh,
That was a trip.
I bet.
And then Hathor made some appearance even in this book, and then different topics. But yes, different sources. And after this book, or maybe Viola is in this book, even Viola the fairy. So I even channel a fairy, which again,
Yeah.
it's crazier and crazier.
Give her a ask about her.
You want me to talk a little bit about Viola the fairy?
Sure.
Yeah, Viola is great. She has a lot of energy. She's very bubbly. So, so I met her in one of my visits to the Monroe Institute. It was Starlines. Yeah, it was the Starlines program, which is one of the most fascinating Monroe programs I've done. And I think I've done 13, if I'm not mistaken. In Starlines, you go and explore the cosmos in different dimensions. So it's very, very, very interesting. And in one of my travels, I believe it was to Arcturus, but I'm not 100% sure. I came back and a connection came back with me. And I saw this face of this being, and she had green skin. And it was very shocking. It looked nothing like what you see like on TV and movies when they were skin. It looked very, very different. And I thought it was very interesting. And I didn't know what to do with it. And then she came again in a different meditation experience. And the second time that she came through, when I came back to my body, I came with the knowing that her name was Viola and that she was a fairy. Although I think there is a galactic connection, possibly Arcturian. And I was really blown away. I really didn't know what to do with that information. I felt like she was an aspect of myself. So I felt like I was discovering an aspect of myself, which is a fairy. And if people are not familiar with the terminology, an aspect of myself, you can see it as a past, parallel, or future lifetime as somebody else. And we have lifetimes, all of us. I'm saying we because I'm not that unique. Maybe I'm unique, but we're all unique in some ways. And we have aspects and we have lifetimes as many, many, many different people and even many, many different beings. So when I came back from that experience, I felt that she was an aspect of myself, and I'm making this connection to a different life of me as this fairy, that green-skinned fairy named Viola. So when I came back home, I shared that story, that experience with my group, my channeling group. And after a couple of months, it took me a couple of months of gathering courage. I called on Viola the fairy to channel her, and I did. I didn't know if it was going to work or not, if it's possible for me to channel her. But I did my invocation, I did my process, and I called her, and she came in like a storm. She was very like a punch, like a punch of energy. She was very bubbly, and she was speaking very fast. And in later sessions, I channeled some light language from her, which feels very, very different from Hathor light language. And her light language, Viola's light language, is very, very fast. It's very difficult for my physicality, my lips, my physicality to keep up with, because she speaks so fast. So that's Viola the fairy. She's a blast. She's very entertaining. And there's actually a book in the works, Conversations with Viola the fairy. So
Oh,
people
cool.
will get a chance to see, to hear all that she has to offer. She has a lot of wisdom and some really interesting information about the fairy realms
Oh, that's
and
cool. Yeah.
our coming ability, people's ability, that is going to increase and increase in the coming months and years, to be able to see fairies and interact with different nature spirits.
Mm-hmm. Wow. You talk about hypnosis, how you help people with that. I know you do a lot of work on that, so I don't know if that's something you talk about or not. Talk about something else. I'll ask you.
Yeah, I love hypnosis. I still practice it. It's one of the, for I would say it was my first specialty.
Mm-hmm.
When I worked independently for myself. So first as a psychologist, I worked for other people. And then I did a lot of testing, evaluations, therapy, and I didn't quite have a specialty. And then when I opened my own office, I really focused on hypnosis, and that became my specialty. And as I mentioned, at first I was trained with clinical hypnosis.
Mm-hmm.
So at first my work was really more mainstream. Even within hypnosis, I worked a lot with trauma, a lot with trauma. That was
Right.
my dissertation
Yeah.
too. So, yeah, I found that there are a lot of people with trauma, unprocessed trauma, especially sexual trauma. That was
Mm-hmm.
my dissertation. But so with hypnosis, at first it was a lot of therapeutic work and pain and trauma and veterans. And then I introduced more and more spiritual work with the hypnosis, introducing past life regression. And one of the things that really appealed to me, that even with past life regression, you're not just feeding curiosity, you have a function. So people would come to me with therapeutic um, goals, but wanting to do past life regression. So an example,
Mm-hmm.
a woman came to me because she had phobia of water, and she wanted to get to the root of it with hypnosis. And so we could do it in a clinical setting, or she was interested in the spiritual aspect of it. So we did a past life regression, and we explored to see if the origin of her phobia was in a past life. And it does happen. Many people drowned in past life and have issues with water. So actually, let me bring up, that's something very interesting. Something that I am seeing more and more coming up today. So one of the things that I am realizing, that there are more and more people that were in Atlantis that are incarnating on Earth today. It's kind
Mm-hmm.
of like a big cycle. People are completing their missions, completing their karma, completing their goals from their Atlantis times, and they're doing so today. And I know, and so one of the things that is coming up a lot for people today, that people notice that they love water, they love being around water, they
Mm-hmm.
want to live either next to the ocean or rivers or something, but they don't like going in the water, or that they have a fear of deep water.
Mm-hmm.
Not the paralyzing fear, but like they don't, some aversion. But at the same time, as I mentioned, a deep love and connection to water and desire to be around water. And I know that, and it's true to an extent with me too. Not that, not so much the fear of deep water, but I don't like going in water, even though I love being around water a lot. So that has been coming up with different clients and different clients. And I see that coming up so much that it's a theme. I realize that it's a wave of people that are experiencing it right now. So a lot of people that may be hearing this will relate to that. This love for water, desire to be around water, but this aversion to either be in water or deep water. So that's specifically related to other lifetimes, other experiences. And if we're talking about Atlantis, we're talking about continents that were drowned
Mhm.
because of different reasons. We can talk about it: misuse of different technologies,
Mhm.
not being aligned, not being in coherence. But there are different calamities, and indeed, the continent broke to different continents and eventually sank. And a lot of people that were there have that connection, and without having the memory, the direct memory of having life in Atlantis, they have that tendency, they have that draw, that they're drawn to water. They really feel like they need to be around water, but again, some aversion from deep water or being in the water. And that's directly related to Atlantis.
I always thought about doing a regression. I just never found where to do it at. I thought it'd be pretty interesting to do that. But so, what is the most amazing thing that you've seen during your hypnosis?
Oh, there are a lot of amazing things. There are a lot of healings that happen. So, people like the dramatic stories, and I do have a dramatic story, and I can share it, and I gladly will. But, there are a lot of the beautiful experiences are not very dramatic. So let's share an example of less dramatic story. So one man came to me, and he's a man. He's really, yeah, he's a man kind of man.
Yeah.
And he did a QHHD session with me. So that's like a past life regression, but it's a longer hypnosis session, and we really focus on asking the higher self a lot of questions. And so he did this session with me, and I was guiding him. And one of his experiences, he was this woman, and he didn't even know if he was on Earth or not on Earth, but he was living by the water, and that's the way they used to live back then. In his experience, there were all these buildings by the water and all these water beings they communicated with. It was this beautiful experience, but very feminine and very water filled. And then he gave birth in that experience. And so he got to experience being a woman and giving birth and that emotional connection with the baby. And
Yeah.
it was completely mind blowing for him. And he was crying, and he was just so moved, and it was so profound for him. So you can take something like this that maybe not very dramatic. I don't know. I can't tell you specifically what healing took place, although it was very obvious that a lot of healing took place. So we can talk about it in terms of woo terms or in terms of general terms. It doesn't have to be woo woo. So there are obviously a lot of integration that took place there. And uh, again, we can talk about it in different terms, but not healing specifically, right? Nothing like dramatic. But often sessions have incidents like this when people get insight into their life in some way, or certain relationships um, in their lives, or certain patterns in their lives. And it also happens that people look for really, really big answers, but the answers are really specific and really concrete. So, for example, one woman came to me, and she felt that she met her twin flame, but he wasn't interested in her. She was married with children. There was a lot of drama going on there. And we did a lot of we did a lot of sessions of counseling, but we also did hypnosis. And I like that because then we get to speak to her higher self and get answers from her subconscious
Uh huh.
instead of me counseling her. And as a counselor, I don't tell people what to do. Even when it seems really obvious to me, I don't tell people what to do. But in hypnosis, they tell themselves what to do.
Oh.
So, yeah, so we did hypnosis and we talked to her higher self and we asked about her life mission. And right, and she's thinking about her twin flame and all of this and all of that and all these big dramatic thoughts. And then in the session, when we spoke to her higher self says, well, your mission, your life mission is to raise your kids and to teach them love and to teach them self-confidence and whatever else. So she wanted answers that were up here, but in reality, her answers were right here. It was about her life and it was about practical answers and about loving her kids and teaching them love. So often it's not as woo-woo as people think it is. Even though we're talking about hypnosis, and even though we're talking about speaking to your guides and speaking to your higher self, it's really about very practical, applicable answers.
Mhm.
But I also have a dramatic story that I can share with the
Sure.
hypnosis.
Sure.
So some of that happens as well. So my most fun dramatic story was a woman that came to me, and it was really special. It's interesting how the universe brings us things like this, because she was the first QHHT patient that I did a session for the general public. So until then, it was again friends, family, people that I know, maybe some existing clients. And then I opened it to the public, and she was the first in that way. And again, QHHT, that's the hypnosis session when we ask the higher self questions, a lot of questions directly. So some background about this patient. We're talking about a 78-year-old woman.
Oh.
Yes. And her main reason that to come is because she wants her guides to send her the perfect man, because she wants true love. She has a boyfriend. She was dating, but she wasn't very happy with any boyfriend. So she wants the guides to send her true love. But there was also a secondary reason that was that's why she specifically wanted this type of session. QHHT sessions are known for also addressing health issues.
Hmm.
So the reason she wanted this type of session was because she had a stroke 2 weeks before coming to me, and she recovered very, very well. She was very healthy. She was an incredible healthy 78-year-old and spunky. I mean, the level of energy that she had. Anyway, she recovered very, very well, but her left vision, the left side of her vision did not recover.
Oh.
So that's what she wanted help with physically, if they could help her restore her left side vision. So we did the session, we did QHHT, and it was, from the beginning, it was obvious that it wasn't going to be a typical session. We do the past life regression, and instead of going to different lives, she finds herself in a cave. And at first I thought that was the life. We guide her through that cave. But no, in the cave there are these people. They're little people. They look very just like regular people, but very small. And they introduce themselves as the keepers of all knowledge. They're the keepers of knowledge, and they let her in the cave. And in the cave, there are different pictures on the wall, and the pictures are illuminated. And every time she stands in front of the picture, the picture comes to life, and it's a whole lifetime that she can then go into and experience. But this woman, every time we stand in front of a picture, she doesn't want to look at the picture. We stand in front of a picture and she's like, oh, they're showing me a picture. This is a lifetime of my daughters. This is a lifetime of my daughters they're showing me. I'm like, oh, okay. And what do you see? She's like, I don't want to look at that. I don't care about that. So like, what do you mean? She's like, I don't care about that. I don't want to see that. It's my daughter. If she wants to see, she can look. I'm like, okay, let's move on to the next picture. She's like, yes, they're showing me the next picture. Okay, we're going to the next picture. She's looking. Oh, yes, this is one of my other lifetimes. I'm like, oh, let's look at that. She's like, no, I don't want to look at that. I'm like, why not? She's like, I don't care about my past lives. Why would I care about my past lives? I don't care about any of that. I want to find true love. So I said, okay. It's a little unconventional. Usually we start with a past life, especially if these wise beings show up and they want to show her the life, but she's just not interested at all.
Oh man, I'll
So
be yes, please.
yes, right. Let's show us everything you want to show us. No, she's just not interested. So I said, okay, let's see if we can speak to the keepers of knowledge. So I asked her all kind of questions. How do they look? I'm all to fulfill my curiosity, usually the client's curiosity as well, but she did not care about anything. And we asked them, can you answer the questions that the client brought to the sessions? And they say they answer through her, right? She's speaking. She's like, yes, no problem. We can answer the questions. Great. Let's start with what she cares most about. She wants the perfect man. Can you send her the perfect man? And they say, no, we're not going to send her the perfect man. Why would we send her the perfect man? If we send her the perfect man, she would just hurt him. All she does whenever good men come into her life is play games with them. And then she says, but I love playing games. Playing games is so much fun. Remember, we're talking about a 78-year-old woman. Playing games is so much fun. I don't want to play games. And they're saying, yes, you don't want to play games. So no, we're not going to send you the perfect man. Okay, so then we move on to the next question. And when we get to the question of the vision, we ask the keepers of knowledge, can you fix her vision? Yes, not a problem. It's done. Okay, can we do it? Yes, it's done. Do you want to tell me that when we close the session and bring the client back, her left side vision is fully restored? Yes, it's done. And indeed, when we ended the session, I brought her back. The first thing I cared about is her vision. So we tested her vision, and indeed, it was 100% restored.
Wow.
Right then, there and then. No process, no time, no we're working on it, we're healing. Just like that. It happened. They did it, and it was so.
Wow, that's a good one.
Isn't that incredible?
There is. What about the conscious shift?
The consciousness shift? Yes. Yeah, so that's really why Hathor is in touch with us and with me, with humanity, and with humanity through me, and also awakening within people's lives in a very personal and individual way. And it's all a part of this consciousness shift that we are currently experiencing as humans. So lately, the guides have been talking about it in terms of going up an octave. So we are shifting from the third density to the fourth density, essentially going up a whole octave of existence in our own vibration and frequency. And that is the process that is happening right now. And for years now, they have been talking about it as near future. It's coming, it's coming, it's coming. And in the last few months, they are talking about it in terms of present. It is here now. We are currently being squeezed through the eye of the needle. and going through that shift. So in the next few months, even more so in the next few years, and we'll really see all the changes being anchored in. But in the next few months, we're going to see more and more changes, just like we're seeing changes already happening, both in conversations, what's allowed to be spoken in the mainstream, but also in actual sightings, for example.
Right.
UAP, UFO sightings are increasing tremendously. That's all because we are right now increasing our vibrations, making certain elements in our environment that until now was not visible to our senses visible. So one of the examples and one of the ways we're seeing it, there are more and more contact experiences. So that is the shift, and it's very exciting that it's here. A lot of people are reacting with fear, which is understandable because there's a lot of changes and a lot of uncertainty. But the guides really assure us that this is a beautiful change and we're really going up in frequency. So, all the chaos that we're seeing is the old system and all the old notions and old concepts breaking apart and breaking up and falling apart so we can start stepping into a new earth, a new reality that is constructed the way we truly feel that it should be, with more inclusive systems, more equality and harmony within systems and with each other. But for that to happen, all the old has to break apart, which is what we're seeing happening now.
So how can you tell if you're part of the shift?
If you genuinely care, somebody asked that recently while I was channeling.
Uh,
So very, very recently, somebody asked that, and Hathor gave a question, gave an answer. And I love it because there's so many different answers that we can have. And the way they said it was like this: if you are a part of this conversation, if you are here genuinely, trying to improve yourself, trying to work on yourself, trying to genuinely help the conversation of moving forward in a more heart centered, connected way, you are a part of the ascension. So you don't need to be perfect. You don't need to be rid of your ego. You can have negative emotions. You can have different thoughts, that some of them may be anxious, some
mhm.
of them may be fearful. Maybe you're dealing with issues of self worth. That is a part of being human. So, whatever comes up for you, as long as you're genuinely working towards that improvement for yourself and for everyone, you are a part of the shift. You are a part of the ascension and you are making it. You don't have to be worried about being left behind. A lot of people really are concerned that they're being left behind, that their reality is not as high vibration as they would like it to see. So be rest assured, as long as you continue the work, right? The inner work, and as long as you do it with a genuine heart and genuine intention, you're good. You're making it, you're ascending, you're a part of it.
Wow. Yeah. So, what does contact mean in your work?
So, uh, the more we are raising in our frequency, the more we're going to be able, and we already are, but it's going to increase and be more and more headed towards open contact.
Hmm.
And I know people think contact is aliens, and,
Right.
and
Right.
specifically aliens, beings that are living on other planets and are hopping on a spaceship, flying over here, and disembarking on Earth, on planet Earth. And that's really something that's going to have to change. It's kind of an old understanding, a very basic understanding. Now, more and more, the guides are talking about contact in terms of us becoming aware to the reality that's already here, of different beings that are already sharing the earth with us, whether they're humanoid characters from other planets and other star systems, whether we're talking about nature spirits and fairies and other beings that we considered as magical beings or mythological beings. All of that is a part of contact, and all of these things are going to become more and more available to us
Mm-hmm.
as we are increasing our vibration. So that's what contact is about. And it's still a part of people's choice. So
Mm-hmm.
it's not like you're going to be stepping outside and fairies are going to be flying everywhere and you're going to be scrubbing them like mosquitoes.
Yeah.
But if, let's say, 10 years ago, you said, I want to have a relationship with a fairy, I want to invite a fairy into my life, and you wouldn't see anything or experience anything in 10 years from now, and we don't have to wait 10 years. I'm just giving an example. 10 years ago, 10 years in the future, you would say that, and instantly a fairy that's also interested, that there's a mutual interest, would come to you and you'd be able to communicate with her or him. I don't know. Maybe they're male fairies. I have no idea. We haven't asked Viola that. The idea is that contact, open contact, is still going to depend on the person and what they're reaching out, what they're calling forth. But a lot of things that were not available until now are already becoming available, and that's going to unfold more and more.
Right. So what do you think the Earth is trying to tell us right now?
Yes, Earth is saying we better shape up. That's it. It's time to shift. There's no more time to waste. There's no more time to avoid anything. That is why everything is coming up to the surface. So there's no more avoidance. There's no more closing our eyes. It's time to see everything and face everything, and do so with love and compassion towards ourselves, towards our environment, towards each other. And this is it. There's no more time to waste.
What brings you most joy in your work?
So, seeing people connect both to themselves, both spiritually and to each other, people finding their own light and really stepping into their own worth and their own strength as beautiful, loving sparks of source. That is what I love the most about what I do.
And so just talk about I think of the Earth, but how we can prepare for it. You think for its coming?
Yeah, as I mentioned, people really should just
If
stay connected, use each other as support, and stay as open-minded as you can, as heart-centered as you can. It's really time to be patient and compassionate with yourself, because a lot is happening, a lot is changing, and the only way to make it is to be patient and compassionate with yourself. And if you need more support, come and find me. I still see clients individually, but what I really recommend is people to join the group. So one of the reasons I meet regularly with my Sunday group is that we really created a community, and it's beautiful. So if people feel they need more support on their spiritual journey, more guidance, more love and wisdom from the guides, I suggest go to my website. That's the easiest way to contact me. It's yafichanneling.com. Yafi, my first name, Yafi, channeling.com. And I really recommend joining the group. It's very affordable intentionally, and it's all about coming together as a community and receiving that support from the guides and from each other.
Yes. Especially about their advice, give somebody for a spiritual journey instead of go to your site. Yeah.
Yes, the best thing is to go to my website and contact me through there.
Yeah. And also, you can get both their books on Amazon. Can you also get through your site or just Amazon?
Absolutely. Yeah, both my books, Conversations with the Earth, Channeling on Humanity, Consciousness and the Shift, which is right here, and Conversations with Hathor, Channeling the Divine Feminine, are both on Amazon and also on my website. You have the hard copies, the ebook, and the audiobook, and I narrate the audiobook. So if you want also the frequency of my voice, you can buy the audiobook, and I narrate both.
I got the. I said the audio book too, but I have your other book too. So
Excellent.
yeah, your conversation. I think you sent me that one.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it was a blast having you on, and once you get that fairy book done, let me know. Now I'll get a copy of that, and I'll get it back on again.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I had a blast having you on. It's such a pleasure having you on.
Thank you so much, Scott.
Very enlightening.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Wow. Have a good night and happy December. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Bye, everyone.